Hi, I'm Tim, and welcome to WatchYouWant.com. Thanks for logging on. Upon the debut of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore in 1993, it was said, "That watch is a beast." So you may be surprised to learn that the Safari edition of the watch didn't actually debut until 2007, part of the series sometimes informally known as the Royal Oak Offshore Themes editions. The Safari was one of an array of wildlife that emerged from La Brasseau during the late 2000s. You've got the panda, you've got the bumblebee, you've got the safari, heck, you've even got the volcano in the Navy for that matter, but we're focusing on the wildlife here, the fauna, so to speak. So the focus is going to be this safari, its inspiration, what it's meant to AP collectors, where it stands in the history of the Royal Oak Offshore, and what this particular example, available from WatchYouWant.com, brings to the table. Now, the safari was one of the themes editions, and having debuted in 2007, it was in fact the first of the themes editions, and it was the one that started the phenomenon that continues to this day. Notably, it's also been the longest running, and one of the few to be renewed continuously right up to the redesign of the model line in 2014. Also surprising is that despite its longevity, in a line that's known for its extrovert styling and outlandish disposition, the Safari is by far the most versatile and most subtle of the themes editions. It features subtle contrasts, it features subdued tones. It's more suggestive of a silver cream African savannah than any kind of explosive volcano or swashbuckling navy or swarm of bees. The bottom line is everything here is about subtle contrast. The contrast between the brushed bezel and the polished white gold bezel bolts. The contrast between that subtle cream silver tapisserie dial and the pure silvered concentric guillochade subdials of the dial. The contrast between the black of the chronograph seconds hand and that silvered dial. The contrast between the dial and the numerals. Everything about this watch is low-key, and Audemars Piguet in this original variant really opened it up by featuring a complementary colored sort of silver cream tachometer scale around the circumference of the dial itself that flows seamlessly from the dial into the similar color of the brushed steel of the bezel. It actually reads a little bit larger than some of the other themes editions because you don't have that abrupt transition from a dark dial to a dark tachometer to a light colored bezel or a light colored dial to a dark colored bezel. This one wears a little bit bigger than it looks, and it looks a little bit bigger than it measures. Now, the Royal Oak Offshore is a 42mm or a 45. The originals were all 42, and this one that you see right here measures a nominal 42. On my wrist, which is 6 1/3 inches, that's 16 centimeters for our friends out on safari using the metric system. The bottom line is it is large. It wears as large as its reputation. It is a style, so because this hornback is well broken in, you're going to find that it does fit reasonably to a smaller wrist like my own. I could wear this. I may have to have another hole punched in it, so I'm going to be honest that this is one for a larger wrist. I think that about 6 1/3 inches that you're seeing right here is probably the minimum that could get away with it and be able to wear it comfortably, but if you're okay with a little bit of a looser fit, you could even size down a little bit and still pull this one off. Now, it's not going to fit under a dress cuff. You can see right there, it's 16.5 millimeters thick. This thing's a tuna can. It's basically a Range Rover for your wrist, but that's a good thing because we're talking safari here, and that's the theme. Now, the Safari was historic for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, because it started the theme series, which, like I said, has become something of a hit maker for Audemars Piguet, but also because it marked the debut of the Hornback alligator strap. So it was a style trendsetter in more ways than one. Now, the Hornback alligator has become probably the iconic look for an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore on leather. And even though Audemars Piguet has made the transition from deployant buckles like the one you see here to pin buckles on the new 2014 and onward offshores, they've retained the hornback for leather-clad models, and it's an icon. They own this. No one else can pull off hornback like La Brasseau, and on the Safari, this just looks at home. Now, the contrasting light-colored stitch on the brown hornback, the way both are complementary to the colors of the dial, they make this a cohesive vision and still one of the most charismatic large sports watches. Again, I don't think this is one you wear with a suit, but if any offshore can pull off a suit, this would be one of the best candidates. Heck, maybe you just have a huge wrist and you're looking for a dress watch in proportion. If you're Shaq and you're wearing a suit, consider the possibility. Otherwise, just take comfort in the fact that when the time comes to dress to play, there is no better dance partner than this Safari. Let's talk a little bit about what's inside, because it is what's inside that counts. And these G-Series watches were all engined with the Audemars Piguet in-house caliber 3126-3840 module, which means that you have the manufacturer base movement. Now this one is an upgrade over the old JLC 889 based base movement in every way. Longer power reserve, no longer 38 hours, now 55 hours. No longer a cantilevered balance cock, a dual anchored balance bridge. That's going to give you shock resistance. Also, with a free-sprung escapement, you're going to have more inherent shock resistance in as much as the index itself cannot be moved by shocks, vibrations, displacements. You know, if you slam your car door while still holding the handle, you don't have to worry about your watch running 20 seconds fast a day. So Audemars Piguet really redesigned that movement with the way people wear their watches today in mind. This is a sports watch. It looks the part on the outside, but it's also designed the part inside. There's a little bit more going on in there too. The finishing is finally universally up to a standard consistent with Audemars Piguet. As part of the Swiss watchmaking holy trinity, AP was known in the mid-century for fine finish. Now that's a tradition that continues, but more so on the in-house Royal Oak Offshore movements. When you open them up, your watchmaker is going to be treated to a panoply of anglage, beautiful Côte de Genève, grained wheels, everything about this watch, from the partridge eye polishing of the jewel and screw countersinks to the slotted and beveled screws themselves with polished heads. Everything about this is what you would expect from a high-end dress watch, but in a burly sports watch. Even the 22-karat gold winding rotor, engraved with the coat of arms of Audemars and Piguet families, lives up to the expectation you would have for something like a Vacheron patrimony, but you get it in a shape that's unmistakable as a Royal Oak Offshore. Now the chronograph is the king of complications, and the date window is the complication you use every day. So you've got pretty much everything you need here. And because these dual plot contemporary Audemars Piguet lug binders are compatible with either a rubber strap, a leather strap, or a metal bracelet, you can upgrade or swap out the shoes, so to speak, down the road depending on how you want to use the watch. So there's versatility built in there if your tastes vary a bit from the Hornback. You want to go with a bracelet or you want to go with rubber for the pool. Now this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Safari is available from WatchYouWant.com in outstanding condition with all original boxes, papers, manuals, documents of provenance, and factory accessories. See it on our website, WatchYouWant.com, and if you're looking for a watch to take on safari, all aboard.